All right, let's talk about artificial intelligence. You hear that term AI absolutely everywhere, right? And the thing is, whether you realize it or not, it's already a massive part of your daily life. So in this explainer, we're going to pull back the curtain, demystify what AI really is, how it actually works, and, what it means for all of us. Let's dive in.
This whole journey really started with a pretty simple but brilliant question from Alan Turing way back in the 1950s. This one thought: could a machine act so human that you couldn't tell the difference? That's basically the idea that kicked off this entire field and has been driving it for decades.
And today? Well, that idea is definitely not science fiction anymore. It's the engine that powers your Netflix recommendations. It's the logic inside Google Maps, figuring out the fastest way to get you somewhere. And it's the voice that answers you when you talk to Siri or Alexa. AI is already woven into the fabric of our everyday lives.
So that brings us right to the big question. When we get past all the buzzwords and the crazy headlines, what are we actually talking about when we say AI?
Okay, so first things first, let's build a solid foundation. We're going to define what AI is, and just as importantly, what it isn't. We'll clear up a few common myths right out of the gate. So here's the most important thing to get. AI is the simulation of specific human skills. See that word? Specific. We are not talking about building a conscious mind in a machine. We're talking about programming computers to get incredibly good at certain tasks, like understanding what you say or finding patterns in data.
And this right here is a crucial distinction. All the AI we have today, every single bit of it, is what we call narrow AI. It's designed for one job, and one job only. The general AI you see in the movies, a machine that can think and reason and be creative about anything just like a human, that's still completely theoretical. It just doesn't exist yet. Which leads us to busting some big myths. So let's be clear. No, AI is not about to wake up and become human. It is absolutely not perfect. In fact, it can be just as biased as the data we feed it. It can't feel emotions like love or anger. And it doesn't just learn all by itself. Humans are always in the loop. So, if humans are in the loop, how exactly does an AI get smart in the first place? Well, in this next part, you'll see it all comes down to one absolutely critical ingredient: data. Lots and lots of data.
I love this quote because it just nails it. This is what machine learning, which is really the heart of modern AI, is all about. It's a tool for finding that one tiny, meaningful pattern, that needle in a mountain of information, the haystack. And the process itself? It's actually pretty straightforward when you break it down. Think of it like a three-step dance. First, you feed the machine a ton of training data. Second, humans give it a set of rules or algorithms to process that data. And third, the result is what we call a model, which is basically a specialized program that's now ready to make predictions on new information it's never seen before. And there are two main ways this learning happens. With supervised learning, you give the AI data that's already labeled with the right answers. A perfect example is Netflix. It learns what you like based on the shows you've already watched and rate it. Then there's unsupervised learning, where you just dump in a bunch of unlabeled data and the AI's job is to find hidden patterns all on its own. Kind of like how Google News automatically groups similar articles together. This brings up a really important question. An AI model is only as good as the data it learns from. So, what happens when that data is, flawed? What happens when it reflects our own human biases? While this is a classic and kind of painful cautionary tale, a while back, Amazon built an AI to help screen job resumes, but they trained it on 10 years of their own hiring data, which, it turned out, was heavily skewed towards men. So the AI didn't become evil or sexist, it just learned the pattern perfectly and concluded that male candidates were preferable. Amazon had to scrap the whole project. Okay, so far we've mostly talked about AI that analyzes stuff that already exists, but now we're seeing the rise of something totally different, a type of AI that can actually create brand new things from scratch. This is a really mind-bending idea from the philosopher Nick Bostrom. What he's suggesting is that once we create a truly powerful machine intelligence, that intelligence could then take over the job of inventing everything else. It could trigger an explosion of progress we can barely even imagine. And the technology that's making all this possible is called deep learning. You can think of it as using neural networks, which are basically complex, multi-layered systems inspired by the way our own brains are structured. This layered approach lets them find super subtle patterns in huge, messy datasets, like all the images or text on the internet. And that finally brings us to generative AI. This is the big game changer.
Unlike the older AI that just analyzes or sorts information, generative AI makes new stuff. It can create a stunning image from just a few words, compose a piece of music, or write a draft of an email for you, all based on the patterns it's learned.
Okay, that was a lot of theory. So let's bring this all back down to earth and look at how these incredible tools are actually being used out in the real world right now. This quote absolutely hits the nail on the head, especially when we think about our careers. The point isn't that AI is coming to replace everyone. The point is that AI is a tool, and the people who learn how to use that tool effectively are going to have a huge advantage.
And I mean, just look at this. Its impact is spreading everywhere. In healthcare, AI is helping doctors spot diseases earlier. In finance, it's detecting fraud. In agriculture, it's helping farmers grow more food. It is fundamentally changing how almost every major industry works.
For a perfect example that you've probably already seen, think about Spotify Wrapped. It's such a brilliant use of AI. It takes all your personal listening data from the whole year and turns it into this fun, super shareable story that's all about you. And if you break down why it works so well, it's pretty clear. The AI gives you these incredibly personal insights, wraps them up in cool visuals that are made to be shared on social media, and creates this huge shared cultural moment for millions of people. It is a masterclass in using AI to get people excited and engaged. Okay, this brings us to our final and maybe our most important section, because as this technology gets more and more powerful, we all need to be a part of the conversation about where it's headed.
I mean, Stephen Hawking really put the stakes in perspective here, didn't he? This technology could lead to some of the greatest breakthroughs in human history, or it could create enormous problems. And right now, we just don't know which way it will go. The direction it takes is really up to us.
And these are the big, tough questions that everyone is wrestling with right now. How do we protect people's privacy when AI needs so much data? How do we make sure these systems are fair and don't amplify existing biases? And what kind of rules or guardrails do we need to put in place to make sure this is all being done safely?
So, how can you prepare for all this? Really, it comes down to a mindset. It's about embracing lifelong learning to keep up. It's about focusing on the skills that AI can't do well, like deep critical thinking, true creativity, and emotional intelligence. And most of all, it's about staying curious, playing with these new tools, and being part of the conversation about our future.
And that really leaves us with one final question for you. Now that you have a better idea of what AI is and what it can do, the next chapter is yours to write. How are you going to use it? To make your job easier? To spark new creative ideas? The conversation is just getting started.